Hi, welcome to the Zoe and Friends. Today we are reading Tales of Fourth Grade Nothing by Judy Blume. And guess what? Today is the last day of me reading it. Yay! Oh, I hope it's the last day. Or is it? That is the question. Okay. Now I'm gonna start reading. Wait! I almost forgot. I have to do. What's it called?
Recap?
Yeah.
Summary?
Yeah, recap or summary, whatever. Which one you prefer. On chapter, where is it? Where's chapter 7? No. Yes, chapter 7 of the Flying Train Committee is when Peter and Sheila and Jimmy had to do this project for school. Okay, so once in a while they argued, blah blah blah, and then when they were finally almost finished, Peter put the poster under his bed for safe keepings, and then the next day when he had to go to school, because the next day wasn't a meeting. So without Peter noticing, Fudge went into his room, opened the door, and went under the bed to get the poster and scribbled all over it. So when Peter went home, that's the first thing he noticed after playing with Dribble. The poster was totally destroyed. So Peter was mad at his mom for letting Peter come into the room, and then the next day. And then the next day, his mom said, "It's my fault. I should have never have let Fudge into your room." And then the next day, Fudge said, "See, Fudgy's a baba." And only the sides were there in the back. So in the middle was totally destroyed. And then counting his teeth, Peter thought he was getting funnier each day. And then chapter 8, the TV star, was about Aunt Linda. Is Peter's mother's sister, lived in Boston. So Peter's mother had to go with her because she had a new baby. Blah blah blah. They said their goodbyes. Fudge said goodbye, even when the taxi wasn't there. He yelled goodbye, and Peter was happy because when he stays with his dad doesn't know a lot about kids, so he just lets the kids stay up late and do whatever they want. Well, not whatever they want. But while the weekend, when their mother wasn't there, is his their dad wanted them to go to their toddle bike commercial just to sit there and wait. So when they went there, they saw a bunch of kids with their mothers in a line, hoping their kid will be chosen. Until the owner of the toddle bike commercial said, "Yes, you are perfect." Peter thought he was pointing to him, and Peter was imagining like, "Oh, my friends will be so jealous of me being on a commercial." But then the owner pushed aside Peter and was like, "You are perfect." He was pointing to Fudge, but Fudge didn't like the idea at first because he didn't want to do it unless Peter showed him how to. Well, so he's like, no. But so he got an idea, just like at the shoe place and the teeth place, the dentist, to make Peter do it first, and then Fudge would be like, "Just like Peter." So that is the last 2 chapters. Now I'm gonna read these 2 chapters. Yay, finally. No, Sticky, do not run away. Okay, chapter 9, just another rainy day. The next day it rained. My father asked me how I'd like to go to the movies. Just me? I asked. No, all 3 of us, he said. Fudge is very young to go, I said. Don't you think so too? Maybe, but I can't think of anything else to do with him. And that will take up a few hours. You could give him some socks, I suggested. You know how he loves to play with your socks. Socks won't last the whole afternoon, my father said. That's why I thought we should go to the movies. What we'll see, Dad? My father checked his New York magazine. A Bear's Life is playing in the neighborhood. How does that sound? What's it about? I asked. A Bear's Life, I guess, my father said. It's rated G. I was thinking of a good Western with lots of action, or else a picture rated R, where you can't get in, and if you're under 17, unless you're with your parents. But my father made up his mind. A Bear's Life it was. I suggested that my father get Fudge cleaned up, because by then he was looking kind of messy. And I don't think my father even put him into his pajamas last night. He was still wearing the same polo shirt ever since my mother left yesterday morning. By 1 o'clock, we were ready to go. All 3 of us wore our raincoats and rubbers. And my father took his big black umbrella. One thing about New York, it's hard to get a cab when it's raining. But the movie theater wasn't very far away. My father said the walk would do us good. There were a lot of puddles. It was very pouring. I like to walk in the rain, especially if it isn't too cold out. It feels nice when it wets your face. I jumped over the puddles. My father avoided them too, but not Fudge. He jumped right into everyone that splashed around like a little duck. By the time we got to the movie theater, the bottoms of his pants were soaked. My father took him to the men's room. He stuffed a bunch of paper towels in each pant's leg so Fudge wouldn't have to sit around wet. At first, Fudge complained. But when my father brought him a big box of popcorn, he forgot about his stuffed pants. Right after we settled our seats, a big boy sat down in front of Fudge. So he had to change seats with my father. Now he was on the aisle. I was in the middle, and my father was on the other side. When the lights dimmed, Fudge said, "Ooh, dark." I told him, "Be quiet. You can't talk in the movies." "Okay, Peter," he said loud. That's when he started throwing popcorn. At first, I didn't notice, but wondering why people in the front of us were turning around every second. Then I heard Fudge whispered, "Pow, pow, pow." And I saw him throw a handful of popcorn. I poked my father. "He's throwing popcorn," I whispered. My father reached across me and tapped Fudge on the leg. If you throw one more piece, I'm going to take it away from you." "No, go!" Fudge said really loud. "Shh," the people in the front of us said. "Shh," Fudge said back to them. "You see," I told my father, "he's too young for the movies. He doesn't understand." But for a moment, the first bear came on the screen. Fudge sat still and watched. After a while, I forgot all about him and concentrated on the movie. It was much better than I thought it would be. It showed all these bear cubs and how they lived. I'm not sure when I realized Fudge was gone. I guess it was when I turned to ask him if he had any more popcorn left. I already finished mine, and I was still hungry. I was very surprised that he wasn't there. I mean, one minute he was sitting right next to me, and then the other minute he was gone. "Hey, Dad," I whispered to my father, "he's gone." "What?" my father asked. "Fudge isn't in his seat." My father looked over. "Where did he go?" "I don't know. I noticed he was gone." "Let me out, Peter. I'll find him." "Should I come too?" I asked. "No, you can sit here and watch the rest of the picture. He's probably wandering around the candy counter." I stood up to let my father out. I wondered what my mother would think if she knew Fudge was lost in the movies. A few minutes later, the picture stopped right in the middle of the scene. The sound of a track trailed off like a broken record. The lights came on. The audience let out a groan. Some kid called, "Boo!" Then my father and two ushers and a man in a suit came over to me. "He was sitting right here," my father told them, pointing to an empty seat on the aisle. "Well," the man said in a suit said, "we've checked the rest of the rooms and the office. He's not behind the cub. He's not behind the candy counter. We'll have to search the theater." He cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted, "Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We'll continue our film in 1 moment, but please you have to find a 3-year-old boy answering to the name of, Fudge." Some people laughed when the man said his name. I guess Fudge does sound funny if you're not used to it. I thought maybe he has been kidnapped. Would my mother be mad? That crazy kid, you can't even take him to the movies. Then I thought, who'd want to kidnap him anyway? "What should I do, Dad?" I asked. "Why don't you walk up and down this aisle to call him, Peter?" "Okay," I said. "Here, Fudge!" I called, staring down the aisle. I sounded like I was calling a dog. "Come out, Fudgy Fudge!" When I got down the first road, and called, "Here, Fudge!" he popped out at me. He scared me so bad I yelled, "Ah!" "Hi, Peter," he said. "Hey, I found him," I called. I found him. I found him. Here he is. Then I turned to my brother. "You dope. What are you doing way down here? And why are you sitting on the floor?" "I wanted to touch the bears," Fudge said. "But the bears are all gone." He spread his arms and said, "All gone," again. My father and the ushers came to the man in a suit and to us. "Fudge," my father said, scooping him up. "Are you all right?" "He wanted to pet the bears," I said. "Can you beat that?" "Well, I guess we can continue the picture now," the man in the suit said. He cupped his hands around his mouth and said, "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our young man has been found safe and sound. Now we will turn to the console of the bear's life." My father carried Fudge back to our seats. He held him on his lap for the rest of the show. I guess he wasn't taking any more chances. Later, when we got home, my father explained to Fudge that the movies are like TV. It's just a picture, nothing to touch. Fudge listened, but I don't know whether he believed my father. I had a feeling he still thought those bears were in the theater somewhere. I made up my mind that I would never take my little brother to the movies. Never. At least not until he was 9 or 10. My father said he was going to cook us something special for dinner to celebrate finding Fudge in the movies. I thought that would be really strange, because as far as we know, my father can't cook anything. Peanut butter, he doesn't even know where his mother keeps the peanut butter, the dishes, or the pots or pans. Luckily for him, I was there to show him. "What are you going to cook, Dad?" "A super duper omelette," he said. "Omelette? I'm not sure me and Fudge like omelets." "You'll like this one," my father said, humming as he gathered his ingredients together. "Get me a big frying pan, Peter." "Okay," I said. I gave it to him. He melted some butter in it. "What's going to be in a super duper omelet?" I asked, while Fudge sat on the floor, banging 2 pot covers together. "Well, the eggs, of course," my father said. "Omelets are made of eggs." "And what else?" I asked. "Ooh, I think I'll make a mushroom omelet." "Eggs and mushrooms?" I said. "Yes, you'll love it." "I'm not so sure." You'll see, Peter," my father said. I set up the table. I set up the table while my father cooked. I even put Fudge in the booster chair. When the omelet was done, my father brought it to us. He was still humming. "That's some big omelet," I said. When I saw it, it filled up the whole frying pan. "How many eggs did you use?" "About a dozen," my father said. "Mom only cooks one at a time," I told him. "When you taste this, you'll know why I use it all up." "You mean it's that good?" I asked. "Go on," my father said as he served me. "Taste it." I took a bite. It was awful. It was the most worst thing I've ever ate in my life, but my father was standing there grinning at me. I didn't want to hurt his feelings. "Well," he said. "Ish! Nice!" I told him, swallowing a chunk whole. I washed it down with a glass of milk. "You see, your mother ought to experiment more. Then you learn to eat a lot of new different things." I don't think Mom ever made me a mushroom omelet," I said. My father put some on Fudge's plate. Then he served himself. Fudge shoved a lot in his mouth, and once I waited, figuring he'd choke on it. Instead, he said, "Ooh, good." My father beamed. Fudge wasn't smart enough to fool my father, so he must have really liked it. But a kid that can eat flowers and swallow teeth wouldn't know how much about omelets anyways. Then my father sat down and tasted the super duper caution. He did not only choke on it, he spit it out. "Oh no," he said. "This is awful. Something went wrong. Maybe the eggs are rotten. Mom just brought them on Thursday." I said. "Maybe it's some mushrooms then," my father said. My father jumped on the table and threw the mushroom omelet into the garbage. Fudge started to cry, "I want more! No, my father told him. It wasn't any good. Fudge started to scream, "Eat it or wear it! Eat it or wear it!" He flung his spoon across the room. It hit my mother's favorite plant. The dirt spilled all over the kitchen floor. "Now you stop that!" my father yelled at Fudge. "I'm going to make a nice peanut butter sandwiches. Then you're going to have a bath. Your mommy's coming home tomorrow. And we're going to show her how well Daddy managed all by himself. Peter, where does your mother hide the peanut butter?" After supper, my father bathed Fudge. The only thing he decided not to do were the dishes. He stacked them in the sink and left them for my mother. On Sunday afternoon, we drove out to the airport to meet my mother's plane. On the way there, my father said, "Wouldn't it be fun if we kept all the things we did over the weekend a secret, just between the three of us, kind of a man secret?" I agreed not to say a word, and my mother was so glad to see us that we didn't even mention the dirty dishes in the sink. 6 weeks later, we were watching TV on one night, and we saw that new Toddle Bike commercial came on. "That's me," Fudge said. My mother looked from the book she was reading. "How he does look like you, Fudge, but that's not really you." Oh yes," Fudge said. "That's me. See." My father squinted a little harder. You know, Warren," she told my father. "He really does look like Fudge." Then she laughed. "Imagine another little boy like Fudgy." It's Fudge, all right. It's Fudge, all right," my brother repeated. "We didn't tell you, dear," my father said. "We thought we'd like to surprise you." "What?" My mother said, like she couldn't believe it. "You see, Mom," I began. "Remember that week and you went to visit Aunt Linda?" Then I stopped and thought about all the things my mother didn't know, like the puddles Fudge splashed in, and the paper towels up his pants, and how he wanted to touch the bears, and the mushroom omelet, and Mr. Vincent his big cigar, and Janet's and her goldfish crackers, and I looked at my father, and I started to laugh. So did he. Chapter 10, Dribble! That's actually what it says.
I wonder what's going to happen.
I know what's going to happen. I will never forget Friday, May 10th. It's the most important day of my life. It didn't start out that way. It started out ordinary. I went to school, ate my lunch, had gym, then I walked home from school with Jimmy Fargo. We planned to meet at our special rock in the park as soon as we changed our clothes. In the elevator, I told Henry I was glad summer was coming. Henry said he was too. When I got at my floor, I walked down the hall and opened a door to my apartment. I took off my jacket and hung it in the closet. I put my books on the hall table next to my mother's purse. I went straight to my room to change my clothes and check Dribble. The first thing I noticed was my chain latch. It was unhooked. My bedroom door was open. And there were chairs smack in the middle of the doorway. I nearly tumbled over it. I ran to my dresser to check Dribble. He wasn't there. His bowl where rocks and water was there, but Dribble was gone. I really got scared. I thought maybe he died while I was at school and I didn't know about it. So I rushed into the kitchen and hollered, "Mom, where's Dribble?" My mother was baking something. My brother sat on the kitchen floor, banging pots and pans together. "Be quiet," I yelled at Fudge. "I can't hear anything with that noise." "What did you say, Peter?" my mother asked me. "I said I can't find Dribble. Where is he?" "You mean he's not in your bowl?" my mother asked. I shook my head. "Oh dear," my mother said. "I hope he did not crawl around somewhere. You know I don't like the way he smells. I'm going to have to look in the bedrooms. You check in here, Peter." My mother hurried off. I looked at my brother. He was smiling. "Fudge, do you know where Dribble is?" I asked calmly. Fudge kept smiling. Did you take him? Did you, Fudge?" I asked him so calmly. Fudge giggled and covered his mouth with his hands. I yelled, "Where is he? What did you do with my turtle?" No answer from Fudge. He banged his pots and pans together. I yanked the pots out of his hands. I tried to speak softly. "Now, tell me where Dribble is. Just tell me where my turtle is. I won't be mad at you if you tell me. Come on, Fudge, please." Fudge looked up at me. "In tummy," he said. "What do you mean in tummy?" I asked, narrowing my eyes. "Dribble in tummy," he repeated. "What tummy?" I shouted at my brother. "This one," Fudge said, rubbing his stomach. "Dribble in this tummy, right here." I decided to go along with the game. "Okay, how did he get in there, Fudge?" I asked. Fudge stood up. He jumped up and down and sang out, "I ate him, ate him." Then he ran out of the room. My mother came back in the kitchen. "Well, I can't find him anywhere," she said. "I looked in all the dresser drawers, in the bathroom cabinets, in the shower, in the tub." "Mom," I said, shaking my head. "How could you?" How could I what, Peter?" Mom asked. "How could you let him do it?" "How could you let me do it, Peter?" Mom asked. "Let Fudge eat Dribble," I insisted. "Peter Warren Hatcher, stop saying that," Mom hollered. "Well, ask him. Go ahead and ask him," I told her. Fudge was standing in the kitchen doorway with a big grin on his face. My mother picked him up and patted his head. "Fudgy," she said to him, "tell Mommy where brother's turtle is." "In tummy," Fudge said. "What tummy?" Mom asked. "Mine!" Fudge laughed. My mother put Fudge down on the kitchen counter, where he couldn't get away from her. "Oh, you're fooling Mommy, right?" "No fool," Fudge said. My mother turned very pale. You really ate your brother's turtle?" A big smile from Fudge. "You mean that you put him in your mouth and chewed him up like this?" Mom make believe she was chewing. "No," Fudge said. A smile of relief crossed my father's face. "Of course he didn't. It's just a joke." She put Fudge down on the counter and gave me a look. Fudge babbled. "No chew, gulp, gulp. All total gone. Down Fudgy's tummy." Me and my mother stared at Fudge. "You didn't," Mom said. "Did so." Fudge said. No, Mom shouted. Yeah. Fudge shouted back. Yes. Mom asked weakly, holding a chair in both hands. Yes, Fudge beamed. My mother moaned and picked up my brother. Oh no, my angel, my precious little baby. Oh no, my mother didn't stop thinking about my turtle. My mother didn't stop to think about my turtle. She didn't even give Dribble a thought. She didn't even stop to wonder how my turtle was like being swallowed by my brother. She ran to the phone with Fudge and tucked her under with one arm. I followed. Mom dialed the operator and cried, "Oh, help! This is an emergency! My baby ate a turtle! Stop laughing!" Ooh, a bird. My mother told the operator, "Send me the ambulance right away, 25 West 68th Street." My mom hung up. She didn't look too well. Tears were running down her face. She put Fudge down on the floor. I couldn't understand why she was so upset. Fudge screamed, "Seems just fine." "Help me, Peter," Mom begged. "Give me the blankets." I ran into my brother's room. I grabbed 2 blankets from Fudge's bed. He was holding me around with a silly grin on his face. I felt like giving him a pinch. How could he stand there looking so happy when he had my turtle inside of him? I delivered the blankets to my mother. She wrapped Fudge in them and ran to the front door. I figured she was glad. I followed and grabbed her purse from the hall table. I figured she would be glad if I thought of that. Out in the hall, I pressed the elevator buzzer. We had to wait for a few minutes. Mom paced up and down in front of the elevator. Fudge was cradled in her arms. He sucked his fingers and made a slurping noise I like, but all I could think of was Dribble. Finally, the elevator got to our floor. There were 3 people in besides Henry. This is an emergency," Mom wailed. "The ambulance is waiting downstairs. Please hurry." "Yes, Miss Hatcher, of course," Henry said. "I'll run her down as fast as I can." No other stops. Someone poked me in the head. I turned around. It was Miss Rubber. "What's the matter?" she whispered. "It's my brother," I whispered back. "He ate my turtle." Miss Rubber whispered that I'm to a man right next to her. Then he whispered to a lady right next to him, who was whispered to Henry. A phased front of pretend I didn't hear anything. My mother turned around with Fudge in her arms and said, "That's not funny at all." But Fudge said, "Funny, Fudgy." Everybody laughed, everybody except my mother. The elevator door opened. 2 men dressed in white were waiting with a stranger. "This a baby?" one of them asked. Yes, it is," Mom sobbed. "Don't worry, lady. We'll be at the hospital in no time. Come on, Peter," my mother said, tugging at my sleeve. "We're going to ride in the ambulance with Fudge." My mother and I climbed into the back of the blue ambulance. I was never in one before. It was neat. Fudge kneeled on a cot and peered out through the window. He waved at a crowd of people that gathered on the sidewalk. One of the attendants sat in the back of us. The other one was driving. "What seems to be the trouble, lady?" the assistant asked. "This kid looks pretty healthy to me." "He swallowed a turtle," my mother whispered. "He did what?" the attendant asked. "He ate my turtle, that's what," I told him. My mother covered her face with her hanky and started to cry again. "Hey, Joe," the assistant called to the driver. "Make it snappy. This one swallowed a turtle." "That's not funny," Mom insisted. I didn't think so either, considering it was my turtle. We arrived at the back of the hospital. Fudge was whisked away by 2 nurses. My mother ran after him. "You wait here, young man," another nurse called to me, pointing to a bench. I sat down on the hard wooden bench. I didn't have anything to do. There weren't any books or magazines to spread out. Like when I got to Dr. Cohn's office, so I watched the clock and I read all the signs on the walls. I found out that it was emergency section of the hospital. After a while, the nurse came back. She gave me some paper and crayons. "Here you are. Be a good boy and draw some pictures. Your mother will be out soon." I wondered if she knew about Dribble and why she was trying to be so nice to me. I didn't feel like drawing any pictures. I wondered what they were doing to Fudge in there. Maybe he wasn't such a bad little guy after all. I remembered that Jimmy Fargo's little cousin once swallowed the most valuable rock from Jimmy's collection, and my mother told me that when I was a little kid, I swallowed a quarter. Still, a quarter's not like a turtle. I watched the clock on the wall for an hour and 10 minutes. Then the door opened and my mother stepped out with Dr. Cohn. I was surprised to see him. I did not know he worked in the hospital. "Hello, Peter," he said. "Hello, Dr. Cohn. Did you get my turtle?" "Not yet," he said. "But I had something to show you. Here's some x-rays of your brother." I studied the x-rays, and as Dr. Cohn pointed out things to me, "You see," he said, "there's your turtle, right there." I looked hard. "Will Dribble be in there forever?" I asked. "No, definitely not. We'll get him out. We gave Fudge some medicine already. That will do the trick nicely." "What kind of medicine?" I asked. "What trick?" "Castor oil, Peter," my mother said. Fudge took castor oil and milk of magnesia. The prune juice too. Lots of that. All things out that help Dribble get out of Fudge's tummy and come out. "We just have to wait," Dr. Cohn said. "Probably until tomorrow or the day after." How about Dribble?" I asked. "Will Dribble be all right?" My mother and Dr. Cohn looked at each other. I knew the answer before he shook his head and said, "I think you may have to get a new turtle, Peter." "I don't want a new turtle," I said. Tears came to my eyes. I was embarrassed and wiped them away with the back of my hand. Then my nose started to run and I had to sniffle. "I want Dribble," I said. "That's the only turtle I want and the only pet I ever got." My mother took me home in a taxi. She told me my father was on his way to the hospital to be with Fudge. When we got home, she made me lamb chops for dinner, but I wasn't very hungry. My father came home late that night. I was still up. My father looked gloomy. He whispered to my mother, "Not yet. Nothing yet." The next day was Saturday, no school. I spent the whole day in the hospital waiting room. There were plenty of people around, and magazines and books too. It wasn't like a hard bench in emergency hallway. It was more like a living room. I told everybody that my brother ate a turtle. They looked at me kind of funny, but nobody ever said that they were sorry to me to hear about the turtle. Never once. My mother joined me for supper in the hospital coffee shop. I ordered a hamburger, but I left most of it because right in the middle of supper, my mother told me that if the medicine didn't work, seeing Fudge might have to be in an operation and get Dribble out of him. My mother didn't eat anything. That night, my grandmother came to stay with me. My mother and father stayed in the hospital with Fudge. Things were pretty dreary at home. Every hour, the phone rang. It was my mother calling from the hospital with a report. "Not yet, I see," Grandma repeated. "Nothing happened yet." I was miserable. I was lonely. Grandma didn't notice. I even missed Fudge banging his pots and pans together. In the middle of the night, the phone rang again. It woke me up, and I crept into the hallway to hear what's going on. Grandma shouted, "Whoopee! It's out! Good news at last!" She hung up and turned to me. "The medicine has finally worked, Peter. All the castor oil and milk and amnesia and prune juice have finally worked. The turtle is out. Alive or dead?" I asked. "Peter Warren Hatcher, what a question!" Grandma shouted. So my brother no longer had a turtle inside of him, and I no longer had a turtle. I didn't like Fudge as much as I thought I did. The phone rang. The next morning, Fudge came home from the hospital. My father carried him into the apartment. My mother's arms were loaded with presents, all for Fudge. My mother put the present down and kissed him. She said, "Fudgy can't have anything he wants. After anything at all. Mommy's so happy your baby's all better." It was disgusting. Presents and kisses and attention for Fudge. I couldn't even look at him. He was having fun. He probably wasn't even sorry he ate my turtle. That night, my father came home with the biggest box of all. It wasn't wrapped up or anything, but I knew it was another present. I turned away from my father. "Peter," he said, "this box is a prize for you." "Well, I don't want another turtle," I said. "Don't think you'll make me feel better with another turtle, because you can't." "Who said anything about a turtle, son?" Dad asked. "You see, Peter, your mother and I were being a good sport about the whole situation. After all, Dribble was your pet." I looked up. Could I have been hearing right? Did they really remember about me and Dribble? I put my hand inside the box. I felt something warm and soft and furry. I knew it was a dog, but I pretended to be surprised when it jumped on my lap and left me. Fudge cried, "Ooh, doggy, see, doggy." He ran right over and grabbed my dog's tail. "Fudge," my father said, taking him away. "This is your brother's dog. Maybe someday you'll have a dog of your own. But this one belongs to Peter. Do you understand?" Fudge nodded. "Peter's dog." "That's right," my father said. "Peter's dog." Then he turned to me. "And just to be sure, son," he said, "we got that dog to grow quite big, much too big for your brother to swallow." We all laughed. My dog was neat. I named him Turtle to remind me. The end. Any questions? Do you think this is the best ending to the story? It's fine. I would not have changed the ending. Do you think there should be a movie about this book? Yes. Because I really like to see Fudge eating a turtle. And trust me, there's no movie of it. I already checked. What happened to Dribble? He's dead. He's in the grave. He's dead. Oh, and he's so sad. So we got the dog. Blah, blah, blah. He's so happy now. I named him Turtle. Do you mind him? Eat it or wear it? Yes. Yes, from the second day of it. Fudge didn't want to eat his food, so he didn't want to eat his cereal, so his father was like, "Eat or wear it," and he was like, "No." So then the father got the cereal and dumped it on his head. Do you like omelet with mushroom? No, definitely no. How do you like your eggs? Why would I want to know that?
You just answer the question.
Fine, I'll answer the question. Let me see.
Parboiled?
Yeah. How do you think Fudge's parents and Peter felt when they couldn't find him? Well, it's only what's a father. So they were like, no, and they were so sad and scared, except for Peter. He was like okay with it. Do you remember being lost or leaving your parents' sight, like Fudge? And I'm like, I did have this dream once, and I was home alone. And then this also time was real life. I woke up at, let's say, at 9 in the summer, in the last summer. And spring break, and I was like, where? So I was going inside my parents' room, and I was like, where are they? So I went downstairs, ignoring the note that was on the bed because I didn't see it, and I was like, no, and my older brother wasn't there, my other older brother wasn't there, so I was like, no, until a couple hours later, they came back, and I was like, where were you?
And it was all a dream?
No, it was real.
Oh.
It was real. It was scary. Okay, if you have any more questions, I'll answer them later. Or never. Bye-bye!